Welcome to the 20th week after Pentecost. It is Tuesday, August the 8th, 2024. This is the Manna at the Tap podcast, where we as a community actively seek the spiritual nourishment our souls crave. The daily lectionary reading we explore together is the manna, designed to nurture our spiritual growth and provide the sustenance our souls need. I'm Gloria, your fellow traveler on this spiritual journey, and together we offer and receive insights and interpretations from these readings, enriching our spiritual lives. Today, we are continuing the conversation between Job and his three friends. Eliphaz, the first of Job's friends, spoke about that humanity is sinful. Sorry about that. And Bildad, whom we met yesterday, said that God is just. So today we meet his third friend, Zophar, who will point out that God punishes sin. His speech is found in our lectionary text of Job chapter 11, verses 1 to 20. Zophar's speech was shorter than Job's other two friends. He was straightforward but arrogant as he dismissed the ideas Job was wrestling with. He criticized Job for complaining and said Job deserved far worse from God. Again, like Bildad, there was no compassion in his words towards Job. He was ruthless in his judgment. Having listened to Job's other friends, he had enough of Job's protesting his innocence. Bildad had suggested that Job was full of empty words, but Zophar now says Job is full of talk and should not be vindicated. By now, one can sense Job's friends are losing patience with him. But let's credit Job's friends for sitting with him in silence for 7 days at the beginning. They wept with him, sat with him in his misery, and wanted to help him. But now they're tired of him not admitting that he has hidden sin. And Zophar wants Job to stop denying his sin, repent, and turn away from his wickedness. If he does, God will forgive him, restore him, and he will no longer have to suffer. He even warned Job that he would die if he did not repent. The more Job's friends accused him of his hidden sins, the more Job denied it, and the more frustrating they became. Zophar accused Job of claiming to be pure and clean before God, but Job was not claiming to be sinless and perfect. He also knew he was not hiding any specific sin that caused the death of his children and the loss of his wealth. Zophar takes the same position as the other two friends that Job needs to admit his sin and he will be restored to God's blessings. Then he will return to his old position of counseling others. Zophar ends his speech after promising what will happen to Job once he starts praying and stops sinning. But Job knows he has no unconfessed sin that God is punishing him for, and Job does pray. Zophar's advice has been unhelpful, and he has left himself frustrated. As we read the speeches of Job's friends, we might wonder how we deal with the suffering in our lives. Several questions come to mind. How long did Job suffer? And we may wonder how long we will experience suffering. And when we do, who will be compassionate towards us and who will comfort us? Will some so called friends accuse us of hidden sin as the reason for our suffering? There's no specific length of time or mention of dates or historical events that would help us to determine how long Job suffered or how long his friends stayed with him. But what we can glean from Job's suffering is that God was with him through the suffering, and God will be with us through the suffering. And no matter what the length of the suffering or the severity of the suffering, it is our response to the suffering that matters. God has a purpose in mind, and we may never know what that purpose is. But when we turn to God in faith, our hearts are changed and our souls are comforted. Suffering can cause us to worship God, trusting His loving heart, even when the circumstances for our suffering are unclear. God has promised that He will work together in all the circumstances of our lives for our good and His glory. That's Romans 8:28. God never explained to Job why he was suffering so much, but in the end, God revealed more of Himself to Job, giving him comfort and hope. He did restore all that Job had lost, in fact, giving him a double blessing and restoring him to experiencing God's presence. He had Job pray for his three friends, and his three friends were told to offer a sacrifice for their sin. But that was not a requirement of God for Job. And in the presence of God, Job prayed for his three friends. Jesus is our example of how to respond to suffering. As the end of his ministry drew near and his impending death became clear, Jesus said, "Not my will, Father, but yours be done."